Hi guys, happy Sunday. So how's everybody doing? How everybody survived this week? So I was going to make a video about the full moon in Sagittarius today, but actually I felt that because of everything that's gone on this week, and I kept, like people updated on my social media on Instagram and Facebook, I felt that it was actually quite good to talk about what just gone on and recap a little bit on these energies before I dive into the full moon in Sagittarius energies that is coming up on June 5th. But I leave that for another conversation. I actually wanted to talk about all the tension that's been going on this week. So last week, a week ago actually on Sunday, we had Sun moving into the sign of Gemini, and that was like good shift because it was suddenly the energy is getting lighter and it trine Pluto. So this was great because we know that this is actually something that is supporting us on our evolutionary path. This Gemini energy is great, and actually straight away Sun made a sextile to Mars. Mars is in Leo, so Sun actually rules Mars at the moment. So this was again, okay, this is supportive energy. It's helping us to follow our purpose and to follow our happiness, pursuit of happiness, all that. But then bang, then actually the energy shifted, and I got it here written down just to remind myself. So we had the Mars in a square with Jupiter, then we had Venus square in Chiron, then we have Mars square in North Node, and today we are having Sun square in actually Saturn square in Sun. So it's been quite a heavy week, and I don't know how it felt for everybody else. I definitely have been feeling this. Also, being here in my Chiron, on my Chiron line in Bulgaria, I'm definitely going through more stuff. More things are brought to the surface for me to look at and to transmute. So let's just talk about these aspects a little bit. As I said, I have already made shorter videos on Instagram and YouTube, but I think that this is quite important energy to talk about just before we hit this full moon in Sagittarius, because this will be a culmination of something that potentially started in December. Like I said, I want to talk about this another time. But so we have Mars square in Jupiter that happened this week, Mars square Jupiter. So Mars in Leo, as I mentioned, it wants to follow its purpose. It doesn't quite know what that is. I mean, it instinctually feels into it, and it goes like, okay, well, I'm all pumped up because I have this stamina and this vitality. This is like a teenager, right? Because they feel like young person. So they feel like, I'm 16, I know everything, I have my driving license, now, let me go and let me do my own things, I know everything. And then usually we do something wrong, and then we follow on our butt, and that makes us humble, like Virgo, and it goes like, okay, well, there is few things more we need to learn about life and stuff. So anyway, so Mars being in Leo, it wants to just go for it, it wants to follow this sense of purpose and destiny, right? And then there is this square with Jupiter, and Jupiter is like, well, in order to do this, like, did you update your belief system? Did you update your perception of reality and your truth? Because it might be kind of blocking you. And this is because Jupiter is currently in the sign of Taurus. This is to do with ourselves, with our need for survival, and like, do we believe that we can take care of ourselves, our self-reliance, self-sufficiency, seeing ourselves valuable, our self-worth? Do we believe we can have what we want? And actually this has been theme that it's been built up on the entire week. It's just literally like different angles of talking about the same thing. And this is with the core of this all is the Pluto square nodes, which is happening the entire year, even after Pluto will retrograde back into Capricorn on June 11th, even after the nodes will shift signs in July into Aries and Libra. This is kind of the bottom line. The bottom line is the resolution to this square between Pluto and the nodes is the south node, so is resolving the past. In order to move into this future, into this Pluto's transit through the sign of Aquarius that is coming up for 20 years, I mean, it's going to retrograde into Capricorn. Also, it will have short retrograde next year. But all in all, from next January, it's more or less straight line until 2044. Right. Yeah. So this is kind of preparation. This year is a preparation. So everything goes down to Pluto. Actually, Mars is the instinctual desire. So Pluto represents our unconscious desire, because Pluto is the planet that is furthest away from Sun. So it's not conscious. So this is something that we might not necessarily be able to tap into unless we are doing it through some techniques like meditation or like hypnosis or something, something deep, because Scorpio is like deep, like investigation, or some shamanistic practices, but or use astrology or tarot. But all in all, Pluto needs Mars, because Mars is this instinctual desire to act. Mars is the one that is the personal planet, is how we show up, right? Like it just is ready to go. So everything that's happening this year is supporting us in this process of transmutation of the past that is keeping us stuck, that is not allowing us to embody this Taurus energy, because the North Node has been in the sign of Taurus for the past year and a half, just as South Node, of course, because it's in opposition, has been in a sign of Scorpio for past year and a half. And the North Node in Taurus has been trying to teach us about ourselves, about our self-worth, and seeing ourselves worthy, and actually perhaps accumulating new tools, how we can be abundant and make our dreams come true and become small, materially self-reliant and self-sufficient, and all that, how we can survive, thrive, be abundant. And Jupiter, now being in the sign of Taurus, is expanding all that. Jupiter is actually going to conjunct North Node on the June 1st, but that's again for another conversation. So practically all these aspects that's been going on this year, this week, all these squares, has been showing us this from different angles. So it started with Mars square in Jupiter. So this is about our belief system. Does our belief system perhaps needs updating? Is it still supporting us in this process? Then Venus squared Chiron. So this was again about Chiron is our collective wound, and Chiron currently is in the sign of Aries. Aries is ruled by Mars. So again, it's bringing us back to Mars. And it's like, okay, you want to follow this purpose, but do you actually believe you can do it? Because Chiron in Aries is it wants us to understand that there is this whole new cycle beginning collectively, but there is still this wound of the past, wound of the Pisces age, where people feel that, oh, we're not good enough, or we can't do it, like we feel guilty and ashamed for wanting to do something for ourselves, or be different from our ancestors, or perhaps pursue a new way of living life or something, like breaking away from the tradition, because Aries is this new energy, this youthful energy that wants some difference, it wants some change. It's a cardinal energy, so it wants to start something brand new. And Chiron being there is telling us that collectively we are afraid, because it's this fear of the unknown, because in the natural zodiac, Aries squares Capricorn, and Capricorn is the structure, is the societal structure, is the government, is the system that is making us feel safe and secure, just like the border around the house, around our property is making us feel safe. This is my territory, right? So suddenly there is this new energy trying to push through, and we are like, it's the unknown. So we are like insecure, we are afraid, we are like, okay, well, I know that there is this other way perhaps, but nobody tried it. It's kind of in a birthing process, and then like, I don't know where it's gonna go. Like, let maybe just stick to the old, because that's kind of tried and tested, and we know what we can expect, right? And then, actually it's important to mention Venus, because Venus is in Cancer. So Venus is helping us to reconnect with our inner world. We had Mars going through the sign of Cancer, which help us to again, like, emotionally reconnect before we can act on it, to connect with our inner world in a sense of action. Like, okay, I want this, and now how am I going to do it? But now Venus is there. So Venus is like, trying to help us feel into our needs, it's like, how do we feel when we are alone? Who are we when no one is watching, when we don't have to wear all these masks and put on these hats that we have to, wear, where we are surrounded by others, where we are in all these social, situations where we are expected to act in certain ways. And, Moon is Moon, Cancer, same archetype, so it's our home. So like our body is our home for our soul, for our spirit. So now Venus going through the sign of Cancer was trying to help us to reconnect with ourselves emotionally and our needs, like what is important for me. Because interestingly enough, a lot of people don't actually know. Like a lot of people, we are so conditioned by our upbringing and the society and our teachers and, you know, culture and religion and all these things that we've been surrounded by all our lives, that majority of people, they think that they know what they want or what is important to them, but it might not actually be them. You know, it might be a projection of our environment. So people really need to connect deeply with themselves and start questioning, like, is this my need? Is this my value? Is this my truth? And Venus going through the sign of Cancer was helping us, like is still, because she's moving into Leo on June 5th. So she's still helping us in this process of reconnection. And the more we connect to ourselves, the more we trust ourselves, the easier is then to be, act as ourselves, to be authentic and individuated, and actually stand up for myself, to not have to pretend that I'm someone else in certain circumstances, but to actually be myself all the time. And on the same day, we had Venus sextiling Uranus. So once again, this reconnection with oneself and our inner emotions, like feel into our needs and actually trust ourselves that this is me, not somebody else tell me like, no, you don't need it, you need something else or something. You go to some specialist that are apparently someone who knows you better than you know yourself, but no, only you know yourself, really. No one else does. And once we reconnect with that, and we trust ourselves, we trust our intuition, we trust our body, because Moon in traditional and medical astrology represents our physical body, the home for our soul. So once we trust ourselves and what our inner guidance is telling us, then it's much easier to actually go after that, to actually start this process of liberation and individuation, and just to be authentically you, right? Like unapologetically free. And then we had Mars squaring North Node, and this was, again, North Node is our evolutionary potential as a collective. In the past 18 months, it's been, past year and a half, it's going to be until July, so not quite 18 months, because it's moved into Taurus in January 2022, yeah? So not quite a year and a half yet, but the North Node in Taurus is teaching us about ourselves, as I said before, about our values, about our needs, our ability to survive, thrive, be abundant. How are we gonna do it? How are we gonna make it happen? Do we believe we can? Do we believe we're worthy of that? Because again, like, we are most of the time being stopped by ourselves. We are our worst enemy. We might think like, oh no, I can't do that. This is not how I can live my life. Someone else can, but I can't, right? So it's like, again, with this Jupiter, like what do we believe? Jupiter is going to conjunct North Node on June 1st. So again, this is going to be brought to the surface. What do you actually believe? Do you believe you can, or do you believe you can't? Because either way, you're right? Somebody very clever said that. There's a quote. Whether you believe you can or you can't, either way you're right. And and then today we have the Sun in Gemini squaring Saturn. So while Saturn was transiting through the sign of Aquarius, it was actually squaring my natal sun. And I remember how that felt like, because I felt so restricted. I felt like, it was, of course, during the lockdown time and stuff, and I felt like I couldn't do what I want. I can't go where I want. I felt really like my hands are tied. There are all these loopholes to jump through, and like, there's so much to take into consideration. There was all these restrictions with travel and everything. So anyway, so now Sun is squaring Saturn, but of course Sun is in Gemini and Saturn is in Pisces, so the energy shifted. This is in mutable signs, whereas before when Saturn was in Aquarius, it was the fixed energy. So now it's telling us that, the old structure is being dissolved, because Pisces is the 12th sign of the zodiac, is the end of the cycle. So this thing of the past is going through dissolvement. Also Neptune, the ruler of Pisces, is in Pisces, is in his rulership. So these things that in a past had a meaning for us, they no longer hold a meaning, so they are being dissolved. But we don't know what are we replacing them with. So it makes us feel very unstable, very unsafe. And now it's just like, okay, well, how are we gonna figure it out? Well, we're gonna figure it out by being curious, by seeking new information, by being open-minded, by being ready to be flexible and adaptable, because the way things were until this point, they are not gonna be like that for very much longer. Like things, the systems, they are dissolving, they are falling apart, they are breaking down, and we are seeking new ways. We don't know what they are yet, which is again this insecurity where we don't know exactly where this leads, what it's gonna look like, what it's gonna, how it's gonna be defined and all that. But we are in the process. This entire year is the process of transition, of preparation for Pluto in Aquarius for 20 years. And we are getting ready for it. So pretty much the theme of this entire year is about that. And the year started with all this yin energy, as I've been speaking about. So it was this internal process of us to being able to reconnect with ourselves, trust ourselves, figure out who we are, what we believe, and what of this is outdated. Like, like it needs to be dissolved. Like Saturn in a sign of Pisces, because while Saturn was going through the sign of Aquarius, it became very apparent to us what is outdated, what needs to be dissolved, what no longer supports us in this process of evolution, and also what is no longer in alignment with our needs and values, because they shifted also, because we don't have the same needs and values necessarily, like all of them, as our ancestors had. We have different needs and values. We want to self-actualize, we want to be free, we want to travel, we want to be able to openly communicate and stuff like that. Like we have different needs and values. Like yes, some of them are the same, like we need to eat and drink and sleep, but some of them have shifted. So things are being dissolved. Saturn, this old definition of reality, it's being dissolved in Pisces. And now, there is this square, because this square is telling us about this, things are not quite clear, It's like there is this certain level of insecurity, because in a natural zodiac, Capricorn and Gemini, there is a in conjunction, right? So this is like a blind spot. So it's like, okay, well, I want this new way, but I don't know what it is, and like, yeah, well, I need to figure it out, but everything is kind of little bit like up in the air, out there, where we, it's all the information is out there, but which one is relevant? It needs to go through Virgo. And actually, interestingly, the moon has been going through the sign of Virgo this entire weekend. It's shifting into the sign of Libra tomorrow. So anyway, so we had some positive aspects. As I said, we had the Venus in a sextile with Uranus, but all in all, this has been quite tense week, and it was pretty much just showing us from a different angles, like the Jupiter, the belief system, Venus, our needs, values, relationship to ourselves. The North Node, as I mentioned, is the evolutionary potential for the entire collective and also for ourselves as individuals. And now this is the Saturn, and Saturn is this structure, right? So every and also Chiron, the collective wound. So all these different areas of our life has been poked this week, because it was like, okay, well, there is something that needs adjusting in this area. It's like, all this point of overwhelm, because like, oh my God, how do I deal with all this at once? Because there is all this stuff going on. And, as I said, most people that I talk about feel this tension, and a lot of people maybe even sense of crisis, like, oh my God, things are breaking down and I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know where I'm going. And how am I supposed to implement these changes into my life to feel safe and secure again, and feel that, I can survive all this and I can actually thrive? Like how? And Jupiter in Taurus, where it's going to be there for a year. So this is our opportunity, because Jupiter is the perfect opportunity for expansion and abundance. But Jupiter expands everything it touches, whether it's negative or positive. So if we have the, lack consciousness, or like if we think that we don't deserve, or this is not, I can't be, this and that, because that's not me, that's not where I come from, or that's not what my ancestors had, or if we don't believe that we are resourceful enough, that I cannot learn new things, or no, I cannot look at things in a different way, because it would completely break down my entire life, because suddenly if I shift my belief system, everything else has to adjust to that. So yeah, so there are all these things that require adjustments, all these things, I understand that it's different for everyone else, but there is this collective feeling of tension that wants a release. And the only way that we can actually help ourselves right now is through Gemini archetype. Be curious, be open-minded, research, seek new information, ask questions. Most and foremost, ask questions, and ask also yourself, within, because the ruler, Mercury, is still in the sign of Taurus, right? And actually, Mercury is going to conjunct Uranus very soon. So the exact conjunction that's going to happen, I believe, the day after the full moon. So this is going to be interesting because it can bring some very unexpected information that might shake us up, but in a sense, that is a good thing sometimes. Because also Uranus going through the sign of Taurus since 2018, for many of us, our priorities completely shifted, our sense of value completely shifted. Like maybe we have completely different, different things has a value to us that they had in the past. Like things just changed in the past 8 years. In the past 4 years, 5 years, the world changed, world shifted, and so did we, and so did our lives, and everything that creates our life in this reality. So things are continuously shifting, and currently Pluto is still ruled by Uranus for another couple of weeks. Just under, because Pluto is moving back, retrograding back into Capricorn on June 11th, just on the same day as Mercury will move into Gemini, and there will be a trine between them too. So this is telling us that this need for flexibility is important for this new direction. The need to be open-minded and not to be too attached, not to be too rigid to these old ways of things. And that's why this week the energy was so intense. There were so many squares this week because it wants to kind of break the status quo. It wants to break us out of our comfort zone, and maybe this apathy, or maybe this not doing anything, and it's just like, I don't know what to do, I don't know where I'm going and stuff. So it's like kind of bringing all these things to the surface, where there is a need to start thinking about this, and the energy will be requiring us for us to take action. And actually this square that is happening between Saturn and Gemini, and this is Saturn and Gemini, this is the last quarter square. So this is where we want to break free and liberate ourselves. So yeah, guys, so this is pretty much what's been going on. Like I said, I don't know how this felt for you, but I'm definitely feeling it. I definitely feel like really unsettled energy. Like there is this all these things that require my attention and require for me to take action to change things and to go in this new way, new direction, and shift how I think about things, and shift what I believe, and shift my my relationship to myself and to people around me. Perhaps even certain relationship in my life no longer have a place in my life. Maybe they are not supporting me in my process. Maybe the place where I am is, and this is different for everyone, but it's just this open-mindedness to ask questions and to be curious and to seek information and to always kind of run it through your internal guiding system. How does this feel? What is your body telling you? What is your intuition telling you? Because Saturn in Pisces is nebulous. It's like dissolving everything that before felt stable and safe. The system, the structure is dissolving, and the only way to actually feel safe again is to go within, to reconnect with your higher self, with your intuition, with the guidance that is much more than just what is everybody else telling us. Even this seeking information, this is just to give us a maybe new idea, but you still need to run it through your internal system. Does this resonate with me? Does this align with who I am? Does this align with my values? Is this in alignment with my truth, whatever that is? Because everybody's truth is subjective to them. This is the majority of that is not the universal truth. It's our subjective truth, and that is influenced by by all these other things, our values and all that. So anyway, so this is where I'm gonna leave it. So I just wanted to kind of recap what's been going on this week to kind of prepare us for what's coming next week, because the energies will start shifting. So there will be no new square being added to the mix. Actually, this square between Saturn and Sun will be still active during the full moon in Sagittarius. And as we are aware, the Pluto is squaring the nodes the entire year. We still have this grand fixed cross in action at the moment. Jupiter is going to conjunct North Node. North Node is the part of it, so everything is still part of it. And yeah, slowly, the more planets will start shifting. Venus will be shifting into Leo, then Mercury will be shifting into Gemini, and Pluto on the same day, June 11th, will be shifting back into Capricorn. So there will be a shift of energy again. The energy will be moving, shifting, and the next week we have conjunctions, we have some trine, we have some oppositions, but there will be no new square added to the mix. So it's just the squares that are already present. So we already working on those. We already are aware of these points of tension, these areas of our life which are kind of maybe not feeling so comfortable anymore, that they require for us to consider maybe doing something about it. And this is all to support our evolution. All in all, the goal of, the core intention of all this is to actually find our freedom, to live an authentic life and be truly happy and live a life of meaning and purpose. This is really what it's all about, because us as human being, like divine being in human experience, we are here for such a short time, and we came here to learn. But like, why suffer, right? Let's make it as enjoyable as possible. But in order to do that, we need to know who we are and what we want. We need to know ourselves, and all these energies that are going on and have been going on and will be going on, they are supporting us on this process. And the biggest change happens under the pressure. When things are comfortable and easy, we don't change. So that's why all these squares are happening. And in evolutionary astrology, we look at squares as something positive, because they require us to do something, to change something. And usually the release point where we have made a change, it makes us happier. It actually makes us feel like, oh yeah, this actually feels more like me. So anyway, guys, so I'll leave it at that. I'll be coming up with a video about the full moon in Sagittarius soon. So I'll just wanted to pop in briefly, 26 minutes, and tell you my thoughts about what's been going on, and also sharing that, yeah, I've been definitely feeling it. And perhaps maybe somebody out there needed the validation of why they've been feeling this way. And yeah, if you like my videos, guys, please like, subscribe to support my channel. And if you would like to book a reading with me, don't hesitate to reach out. All the information is in my bio and in the description, so you can always find me. I'm on all the social medias. So anyway, I'll wish everybody a nice upcoming week, and I'll be in contact with you again soon. Much love. Bye.